Exclusive on New
Hi, it's Art Vuolo here in 2016, a year that was not the Sweet 16. We lost a lot of great radio personalities this year. Charlie Tuna, somebody who was at the second of our dream lunches, and he's gone, and so many more. Bob Coburn from KLOS we just lost. A lot of great recording artists like Prince is gone, and Glenn Fry, and all the people that we, David Bowie. I mean, it was not a good year. And then we're ending it with Debbie Reynolds and Carrie Fisher. So we're saying good riddance, but we're going to go out in a bang with a really good time here at the Radio Dream Lunch. It's our 8th year of doing this. Remember, it started with 6 of us at a simple Marie Callender's out in Valencia 8 years ago. And here we are. And an amazing number of people are expected to be here today, and you'll see most of them here on this video. I came all the way from Michigan and got here last night. I'm still jet lagged. We're going to have a ball. Welcome to the Dream Lunch.
Just say hi first to Joey Reynolds. Come on up. Okay. As a young kid living in Chicago, my summers were spent up in Michigan, and I got to listen to you on the radio. When we picked up, on AM radio, we could pick you up from Michigan every now and then. But just a couple of things. What was your first radio station you ever worked at?
I don't know.
Come on.
There've been too many of them. No, I worked on television first. I was
you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I won a contest with Bill Mazer. You know him, the sports guy? He had an announcer of the future contest, and I had 15,000 votes that I mimeographed, and I got caught. So they discounted me as the winner of the contest, but they thought I was so good that I should be in radio selling time, and because I was so full of crap.
And your first major on the air?
Was on channel WGR in Buffalo, and then I went to the radio WWOL with Dick Purden. Right, I was an intern for him and sold time, and then I did time. It's the same thing.
Okay. Now, some people say there's a famous story about you and the Four Seasons. Can you tell that story?
Which one?
The one about when you first heard when you first played their first record. It was in the movie. Correct?
No, wait. I mean, we have to start somewhere. Morton Downey Jr. was the program director of WPOP in Hartford. I was on the air there, and he was very crazy, like me. We were both crazy. And we had absentee ownership, so we did whatever we wanted to do, and we were kicking ass with WDRC in Hartford, which is a bigger signal. But we had a lot of fun, so I took the Four Seasons Sherry record, and I played it for 4 hours. I had 2 acetates. Remember those? Those are the things that you wear out.
Sure.
You play one side and you played it so many times you go through the other side, So I played that for 4 hours till the cops came and pulled me out of the studio. But that never would have happened with a real program director. Only with Downey, where you could get away with something like that. He thought it was funny. And they're taking me off to jail and he's laughing, because he called it a promo. That's not a promo. I'm going to jail. What are you, crazy?
So the way they portrayed it in the movie, was it done correctly?
Yeah, except I'm a white guy. I mean, they had a black guy in the Jersey Boys because of economics, and they also wanted to have somebody who was of color in the production down in San Diego. I mean, nobody knew what they had. They didn't know they were going to have a big hit like that. Who knows? You don't know. Yeah. But it's all those hits. That's Bob Crew. Bob Crew and I were good friends. I played every one of his records. I never took payola. So my father called me a schmuck. I should have taken the money and I would be living in this house here with you.
Well, thanks for coming by.
Well, I want to say something about your house.
Okay.
Because I've been here before. This house is haunted. And last time I came here, I thought they were going to keep me because I was such a fossil. But, with all of these great displays of everything that you have here and this collection of all this stuff, we want to know who cleans. Who cleans the house?
Oni, where's Oni? She does all the cleaning.
She does all of this stuff?
I do a little bit myself.
Yeah, but this is an amazing collection of everything that everybody would have on eBay. And you've done.
I like to think there's a few things that aren't even on eBay, like Elvis's shirt with his blood on it. There's a few things that aren't even on eBay.
Well, you're an amazing guy, and we all love being your guests every year. And you also have good food, which is nice. And the fact of the matter is that you put all of us together in the room. Now, Radio and Records had a divorce, you know, that's what happened. That's how both businesses died as a result of it, I think. And they turned radio into real estate, but let's not go down that road. So, you know, the radio and records had a divorce, and you seem to have the alimony.
Well, thank you. I do have to say, I do have to say, last time after you were here, Joey, I did an inventory, and Sugar Sugar by the Archies was missing. Now, I'm not saying. Okay, Don, come over here. Come up here. Here. For those of you who don't know, our next guest is Don Kelley. He was a manager for a legend in this business, and that was Wolfman Jack.
But you know,
He was with Wolfman from the beginning to the end. Pretty
but
much.
I was also with managed Imus, who he was a legend in his own mind.
That's true.
And Murray the K and Robert W. Morgan. So there, but the one that's got the best stories is Buzz Bennett.
Yeah, right.
Right. But it's so good. This is such a wonderful thing you do here. I mean, my favorite record executive was not Joe Smith, was not Mo Austin, was Ron Alexenburg, and he is a wonderful. He hasn't changed one bit, and I don't know what color that is, how you get your hair white, but I'm going to find out, and I'm going to change.
He hasn't changed one bit, but we're trying to get him to change.
All right.
Okay.
I was going to tell a Wolfman story, but I mean, you can go on and on. But Joey just reminded me that I almost got arrested, but it was with Don Imus. So Don Imus is about to get fired. So I go to Connecticut. My aunt lived there, and I was able to, 15 minutes away, I picked him up in the morning to get him on time because he was running late all the time. Perry Bascom was a little upset about that. So I ended up getting him on time for 3 or 4 days in a row, but what happened, he would miss throwing the quarters, and he insisted on driving, and he was still suffering from whatever illness he had earlier in the evening, and he would throw the quarters into the bucket or the toll thing, and miss it. And I found this wonderful in NBC's building where they sell cigarettes and things. They had a gun that shoots quarters. So I went and bought the gun. I bought the gun. I went and got $10 worth of quarters. Next morning I pick him up, and son of a gun, he's hitting. And I'm trying to always drive because I don't want him driving. He's hitting the toll booth. The first one was okay. Second was okay. Third one was okay, except a rather large woman was taken on the other side, bent down like this to do something, and he couldn't help himself. He shot her with a quarter in the buttocks. Yeah. And laughed. Now, she thought she'd really been shot, and three more stops, and there we got arrested. I was going to jail. All the cops knew who he was, of course, and thought it was funny. I didn't feel it. I mean, here we're over like this doing the whole thing. And that was the last time I took him, and he got fired afterward from Perry ended up firing him. But that's my one big story. But I miss Wolfman, and I miss Robert W. Morgan, but not as much as I miss Wolfman because he was special. He really was.
Why don't you manage me?
Joey, I could have. I mean, I wish I had, man. I was talking to Shadow. Shadow was always so pretty, you know. Shadow Steve was always so good looking. He would have been a hell of a television actor. I'm sorry.
Your ears burning, Shadow?
No, it's something lower. It's calling
There's,
you pretty.
but you look at this room, all of us, and I look at the record personnel here and the radio station, and you think this was all about launching a record. You know, all the stuff that Ron paid for his promotion guys to go out to get the attention of the radio, and then the radio takes it to. They have to make decisions, and they're launching brands well, now you're a brand if you're an artist, you know. And you think of how what the role everybody played here. I'd like to see Coca-Cola launch a new brand, a new soda every week, like you guys did, all of you together. And this just typifies that. And one thing Steve wants to do, did you know that the Gavin, the book, there's this wonderful book just about telling people's
yeah,
roles,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's always the same people.
Right.
He wants to name all of you, all of you, in terms of both record and radio, and document it, because there's a documentation that goes with this. I mean, Ron, you probably go through here and see things you paid for, you know, or somehow paid for. I don't know how you paid for a lot of. So I think that's wonderful. What you want to do is to put names and faces that help launch artists to in books like what Gavin did.
True.
And I really think that's great, and I'll help you do it too.
I know you will. Thank you, Don. By the way, next year Don will tell us about American Graffiti. He had so much to do with American Graffiti, it might not have ever, might never have launched without you. With you and Wolfman. Is Kerri still here? Just real quickly, your dad was such an icon, so important to everybody in this room. Just tell us a little bit about your dad, just something, you know, that you would like everybody to know.
That people don't know? Gosh, this is funny. My father played music his whole life, but when he wasn't on the radio or when he wasn't taping his show, he never listened to music. Never. It was always self-help tapes. He was listening to lectures. So he never listened to music. So people think, oh, you must have grown up knowing music. And I would always get picked for school for like, oh, hey, she knows music. Let's put her on the team. Let's do trivia. I wouldn't know anything. Nothing. And, you know, so I grew up doing musical theater. So I knew anything Broadway. You could ask me about Broadway, and I could tell you Broadway. But, yeah, people always assumed I knew music or my dad knew music. Now, one time in all of his entire career, he would talk about one song that was on the radio, besides the song that was the worst record he ever played. And I can't remember. Do you remember the name of it?
I don't.
Okay, it was the worst record ever played, and he was talking about it to a group of people. And one man raised his hand, and he's like, I know the record. And he said it was, and I wish I could remember what it was, and he's like, I know it because
Papa Umamo?
No. And he goes, because I wrote it. And you're right. It is the worst record ever played. But, oh, God. Yeah, right? So, but this is one funny thing. It was with my sister and my brother. And we were in his car. And he had this old Mercedes. And he drove this Mercedes 20-something years. I'm not kidding you. It had ripped up seats. I'm like, Dad, get a new car. Why? This works perfectly. The air conditioning doesn't work. He goes, sure it does. And he'd have to turn the car on, turn the car off, turn the car on, and get it on. I mean, he just didn't want, he didn't care for new things. He didn't care for the big and the, even though, yeah, the house was big, but it wasn't his choice. So we're in the car, and he said, you got to hear this song. It's so great. And he starts singing, and he's like, this kiss, unstoppable. We're like, Dad, that's Faith Hill. He goes, it's a great song. And he was going over the lyrics with us, and that's the only song. So I just interviewed Tim McGraw, and I told him that story. And I said, I always wanted to tell Faith, because of all the songs he played, all the years of music, that was the one song that caught him, and he just loved that song. And then Send in the Clowns, but that was a long, long time. Send in the Clowns and This Kiss. So that's a good story. Yeah. Yay.
Okay, we'll let you go now.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Art. This is awesome. Keep it going. And we'll be back next year. Bye, guys.
A couple of minutes with Ron. The history is unbelievable. He started in Chicago.
Yes.
As a local promotion person, or what did you do first?
I started an independent record distributor when the business was fun.
Mm-hmm. And then from Chicago to New York?
Yes.
With Epic?
No, with a company called Date that I thought was a
Date.
tax write-off for CBS, because we released 14 records and only one of them, Clefts of Lavender Hill. I bet you don't have that. You probably do. You probably do.
I do.
And we had the Distant Cousins, which introduced me to Bob Crew, God rest his soul, Larry Brown, Ray Bloodworth, who wrote a few hits in their day.
Right.
And met Rochelle, my wife, who's here today.
Hi,
Today
Rochelle.
is 52 years. Today's the celebration of me flying into New York on a blind date.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And I've been putting up with her for the past 50 years. No, I'm just kidding. But I got to tell you something at the outset. I know you're going to ask me questions. This is absolutely incredible. When Art called me and he said, I don't know if you're on the list. I don't know if I did it right. I said, you know, I've been here 24 times, maybe more. And what you've done here, and it was nice to acknowledge some of the stuff downstairs that you won't compensate me for, but that's okay. To see people here, I never wanted to live here. I never wanted to raise our children here in the 60s and the 70s. And when Rochelle and I just told Sandy and Wink this story, then we bought a one-way ticket this time. And that was a bit emotional for us. We're still looking for a place to live, if anybody can help us out. But we have an office already out in El Segundo. But what you've done and the way you keep things alive, and it's just, you're wonderful. And, you know, I mean, that KISS pinball machine, I had one of those. And when the movers came, they erased the signatures that were at the bottom.
Oh, my God.
Okay, and then there was a pinball machine that Elton John had. But I have to tell you that, yes, coming to New York was 50 years of our life together. And now we're here. So, you know, it's my 55th year in the business. It ain't going to stop, you know.
Tell us one quick story. You were at Epic when Michael came, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit what it was like for Michael when he first came from Motown to you guys.
Well, I'll do it as quick as I can. Yeah.
I would think they would know.
Michael,
if not, they'll know when he starts talking about it.
Michael, I always wanted to meet the Jacksons, Jackson 5. And they were playing Radio City Music Hall. And I pulled my car out of the ABC garage because CBS did not have a parking lot. And I used to pitch coins with your cousin Brucey, and I had a two-sided coin, and I always beat him so he could play our record. And yeah, that's part of the promotion game. Yeah. Redbone, of course. And yes, and what happened is I saw a bunch of kids hanging around the Warwick Hotel. So I drove my car. I think it's still running. I left it parked there, and I walk into the lobby of the hotel, pick up the house phone, how things have changed, and I said, I'd like to meet Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson? They ring his room, not that I would remember, room 805 to be exact. And Michael, it's Ron Alexenburg. I know who you are. I said, well, I know who you are. I'd like to meet you. Can you come downstairs? And he came downstairs with the worst human being I ever met, his father, and their attorney, Richard Aarons, who was out here somewhere. And we sat, and Michael had a soda, and he started to tell me about unhappiness, and nobody wanted him, and their uniforms had sweat circles, and they weren't being that well looked after. And I said, come on over to my office, which was right next door. That's why I think my car is still running. And Michael came over there with his dad and this lawyer, and he saw Epic Records, and he saw the building, and he saw Black Rock at its best, 9 o'clock at night, and music was being played. And, yeah, it doesn't happen anymore. And he sat there, and I said, Michael, what do you want to do? Now, you remember, he was young. He was 19 years of age. And he says, I'd just like someday to do my own music, and nobody wants to listen to it. I said, well, we can do that. And I sat down and I said, is he out of his contract? And they hadn't paid a royalty in 16 months. So guess what? You're out of your contract. Now, I fill out a quick story. I fill out a deal memo. It goes upstairs. And somebody from Motown, and I respect Barry Gordy, you know, I wanted to work for him for nothing, called CBS law department and said, Ron Alexenburg is raiding Motown. I played golf with Marvin Gaye. He plays me Sexual Healing. I said, what's going to happen with this? He said, I don't know. Nobody wants to release it. We will. Okay? Yeah. And my deal memo, which was for $1 million, 3 albums firm, because that's all I could approve up to $1 million. So I made it out for $333,333.33. Arthur Taylor, who knew nothing about the music business, the president of CBS Inc., refused my deal. I go to Walter Yetnikoff, who I reported to, and I said, what do you mean? I have the rights to sign these people. I believe in this. I'm going to get on the phone to Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff, Quincy Jones. We'll make this happen. He said, well, you got to go see Arthur Taylor. I went upstairs to the 35th floor of the CBS building, and I said, Mr. Taylor, what's the problem? He says, they're a cartoon act. Documented. They're a cartoon act. They were on CBS Saturday mornings. And I said, you see that building next door? It's a true story. I've witnessed to this. It's ABC. ABC had a record company, as you well know.
I was there 7 years.
Right? I said, I will take Epic Records. I will find somebody to buy this whole label. I mean, I was a punk. What did I have to say? But we were signing bands that nobody wanted. Boston, Meatloaf, Kansas, Redbone. You know, nobody wanted them. Okay? And he said, well, I'm not going to approve your deal. I go back to Yetnikoff and I said, this is absolute bullshit. Okay, and Tony Martell, God rest his soul, ladies and gentlemen, words for Tony, comes into my office, he's trying to calm me down. And I said, you can't calm me down. I'm out of here. This is bullshit. He says, you know what you ought to do? Go see Bill Paley. Now, all Bill Paley was the chairman and the starter, and all he signed was Groucho Marx and, you know, Jackie, right. I never met him. So I pick up the phone. The address of the CBS building is 51 West 52nd. You would think extension 5152 is kind of heavy, right? Yeah. 5152. Barbara, his secretary, answers the phone. I said, hi, this is Ron Alexenburg. May I please speak to Mr. Paley? She says, regarding? And I said, a problem. She says, aren't you the head of Epic Records? I'm going, yes, ma'am. I'll call you right back. The executive intercom rings. It's Bill Paley. He goes, Bill Paley here. I go, yeah, right. And I hang up on him. Doreen, who you know, Doreen Cartwright, okay, she did okay. She married Hernando Cartwright. His daddy had a little hotel over the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, my secretary. She says, Ron, dial 5152 again. I dial 5152. He picks up. And I said, do I still have my job? He says, come up here. Oh, I go upstairs, 35th floor. I'm sorry for the lengthiness of this, but it's a great, thank you. I get off the elevator on the 35th floor, CBS building. To this day, there's the president of CBS, the president of the network, not radio, television, finance, and a lawyer. 4 people, that's it, on the whole 35th floor. I get off the elevator. Barbara's there, his secretary. She says, they're waiting for you. Now, I was 245 fat pounds in those days. And I had gone across the street once I knew I was going to meet him to the Americana Hotel and buy a shirt that was a 15.5-inch neck. That's all they had. And he's like this on me. But I'm walking into where? The boardroom. And there's Dan Rather. There's Marietta Tree. There's Arthur Taylor. There's Bill Paley. And he has my deal memo in his hand. And he says, what's this? I said, it's the Jackson's deal memo that I'm being rejected. Why are you being rejected? And I said, honestly, I really don't know. He said, well, why do you want to sign them? And you remember, because I called you, my good friend, the day Michael died, and I was on MSNBC, and they asked me the same question. Why did you sign him? And I sat that boardroom, and I said, anybody that can have a #1 song singing about a rat. And they looked at me like I'm nuts. And I had to stand in front of the board of directors and go, Ben, the two of us. And he said, go make your deal. That's how Michael ended up on Epic Records.
Very cool.
Yeah? And then in the book, which I need you to help me market, I also went in the crazy part of my career and signed the Pope. You know that deal. So I go from signing Pope John Paul, who couldn't sing worth a damn, to Michael Jackson. So 1 album that did nothing and 2 that did 200 million. But I have to tell you, what you've done here today, and thank you, Art, for inviting me, and it's the best $20 I ever spent on lunch, okay? And thank you.
You're welcome. All right, one more person. Where's Johnny? Where's Johnny? Is he here? Mr. Tillotson. Normally we do, all of us, promotion and marketing executives and people from the music industry and all the radio folks and all that, and we've had a great time. But today we're lucky enough to have Wink and Sandy and Michael have brought over a fantastic artist of years gone by, Johnny Tillotson. Say hello, everybody.
Steve, hello, everybody. It's great to be here. And from an artist standpoint of view, it's really something the artist appreciates, is getting to meet all of the people that have helped along the way. And that's the biggest thing for me, is to get to shake their hands and say, thank you for remembering, and thank you for all you've done for me. And especially you, Steve, for keeping the music going.
Tell us one quick story. Your first major label was Cadence, right?
Cadence Records.
Okay. How did you get to be with Cadence? How did that signing happen?
I always wanted to be with Cadence Records because Archie Blyer was a producer, and he owned the company. And he was the kind of guy that if you had a hit, you got to go to the studio. If you didn't have what he thought was a hit, you didn't get a chance. So I knew I wanted to be with somebody like Archie, and Pet Milk Talent Contest had a contest that I was involved in, and hearing about me in Nashville, obviously some people liked what they heard, and that's how. And Archie was in town cutting the Everleys, so it all worked timing-wise. It worked really nice.
What was your first song on Cadence?
Dreamy Eyes / Earth Dreamy Eyes, Well, I'm Your Man.
Okay.
So.
All right.
But this is, I just had a great time out here.
Well, we're going to take a tour in a little while. We'll show you a bunch of your old history, but thanks for coming by today.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Poetry Emotion, that was good. Thank you for that.
All right. Thank you for coming by, everybody. Not that we're going anywhere. I'll be giving some tours in a little while for anybody who hasn't seen a tour in a little while, or some of those of you who have not been before. We'll take a little rock and roll tour through history.